All right, we've made it to the finale of the sound creation series. I'm calling this the Recreation Project. And the goal of this is to study a classic cymbal sound and make my own versions of it. We've been diving into the Paiste 602 and Sound Creation Dark Ride. Very, very famous cymbal that was used a ton in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's funky, it's weird. You can check out all the other parts to this series. In this video, we're really going to be diving into the cymbals that I made inspired by this sound. I wasn't going for a perfect recreation of the cymbal because it is a little bit of a dated sound, so I wanted to take inspiration from it and, update it for 2025. So as of the posting of this video, the entire batch of the cymbals that I made are available on reveriedrums.com. You can head over there. Super limited run. Once they're gone, they're gone. And I'm really proud of these cymbals. I'm really proud of how they turned out. We're not going to show all of them in this video, but I'm going to pick out a few of the ones that I particularly liked and pick out some ones that kind of show the different routes that I was going, the different tweaks in the design. All right, so before we dive into my recreations of this cymbal, I just want to say a brief thank you to everyone who has reached out over the course of this project. It's honestly been going on for about 6 months. I did months and months of prep and testing, making my own versions of this, learning more. I got a new Dimensions ride, then I got this 602 Dark ride, and as I've released the videos, people have been reaching out, giving me more information, guys that are just absolute experts on vintage Paiste cymbals. And one person in particular is Mark Griffith, who is the editor-in-chief of Modern Drummer, and he is a longtime contributor to the magazine. He also knew Al Foster really well. They were friends, and I believe he knew Paul Motion and probably Jack DeJohnette as well. Phenomenal drummer in his own right. He's a Paiste artist. And he gave me a super cool little Easter egg tip trick about how Al Foster got his sound. And what he would do is he would actually take a wooden drumstick and he would shave the tip down. And that actually accentuated more of the mellow, woody quality that the Dark Ride has. And it kind of notched and limited how much clanginess there was and kind of shrillness the cymbal had. And so I'm going to demo in just a second what this does to the sound, just a standard 5/8 tip and then one of these whittled down drumstick tips. It's amazing how that kind of draws out a certain tone, and that's how Al Foster got his sound. Standard 5/8 tip. Shaved down tip. He also had, at least on one of his Dark Rides, had 6 equidistant rivet holes popped, but then Mark was telling me that he had them installed at 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock on the cymbal, so he usually liked to do 2 cymbals. Paul Motion, I've seen a video of him where he's got 8 rivets in his Dark Ride, and they're all in, and that's kind of the Paul Motion sound. And so this sound, comes from a bygone era, an era when drumming was much more muscular, what one could say. They really like to lay into these cymbals, and it was in the midst of this kind of new wave in jazz music where we were entering into the fusion era, and so guys were playing this in a much different way than drummers are today. So when we talk about my recreations in just a moment, we're going to see how I was taking the inspiration from this sound, and I was tweaking the designs to update it for the modern drummer and for modern music. All right, so to talk about some of my versions, I made them in 20s and 22s. Really quickly on the 20s, I really kind of aimed at one style of this recreation of the Dark Ride. Most of these cymbals that I've posted are in that 2100 gram range, 2100 to 22. 1 or 2 of them dip below 2100 grams, but I found that weight range and that shape, utilizing a little unlathed crust was just really, really nice for that vibe. And then with the 22s was really where I dove in and went different directions. So direction one is just a cymbal that's close in weight to the actual Paiste dark rides, which typically were between 3,000 and 3,400 grams. Mine, I aimed for the lower end of that weight range, and so they're all kind of hovering around 3,000 grams. Because I did much more hand hammering on those than the Paistes ever had, you know, there's way more compression points, which just takes the sound in a darker direction. I also hammered all the bells because the pressed bell in and of itself is a little bit clangy, and it's got too much highs to it, and it's a little bit abrasive to the ear in my mind. So I modified those bells so they're a little bit more mellow, and then I hammered them in a way that would just make them darker. The second direction was basically taking the same specs, but taking the weight down about 500 grams off of that kind of 3,000 to 3,400 gram range. So we have, those cymbals are kind of between 2,600 and 2,800 grams, and those have a much airier sound, and they lose a little bit of that kind of body, but they work a lot better in modern contexts. The third and final direction that I had for the 22s was to start with a thinner blank. So the blanks I was starting with were, you know, close to 2,900 grams, and then I left a lot of unlathed crust on it. The point of doing that was to allow that crust to contain some of the airiness, so I could get a recreation of the dark ride that would sit around 2,700 grams, and it would be a little bit more dry and contained. So let's listen to examples of these. I'm not going to show all of them, but I'm really interested to know what you guys think. All right, so please let me know which of those is your favorite. This project has been amazing to do. I've learned so much. I said it in the previous part, but I feel like this project is rooting me in the history of cymbal making even more. When I got into cymbal making, I was really laser focused on the old K sound. I love the old K sound. And really that's kind of the origin of all of this, is that old K Zildjian sound. At least for indie cymbalsmiths, it's a huge inspiration for us. But as I branch out and I deal with some vintage Paistes and some Zildjians from the American side, not the Istanbul side, you know, I'm starting to, you know, go closer to the modern era, but really discover the beauty of certain cymbals that were made post this old K era. I have loved this vintage Paiste project. I feel like there's going to be another one down the road. I don't know which one yet. We obviously can deal with flat rides. We could deal with the 602 series. Plenty of stuff there. I'm now going to be diving into a hi-hat project next, which I'll give you a little teaser on that. Very famous drummer, very famous drummer's hi-hat sound. That's going to be the next in this recreations project. Super excited about this. Thank you guys so much for watching, following along, and reaching out to give me more information and to give me your feedback. It's been really, really awesome. I love the drumming community. The cymbal enthusiast community is awesome, and it's wonderful to be a part. So head over to reveriedrums.com, check out more about what we do and the cymbals that we make and the modifications we do, the percussion accessories we make. You can find all that information on reveriedrums.com. Like I said, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of this whole project, and let me know what you think about my recreations. Hit the like, hit the subscribe and the bell if you want notifications, and keep an eye out for the next video. I'm Timothy Roberts. Thank you for watching.